Hello, and welcome to Open Wounds Podcast. I'm your host, Candice. This podcast is about healing the wounds that you can't see and leading a revolution against oppressive systems that keep them open. We're going to talk about really practical tools for managing complex PTSD, as well as dive into relevant current day topics that make healing a daily practice. You can follow us at IG at Open Wounds Podcast or watch on YouTube at Open Wounds Podcast. Please rate, review, like, subscribe, all the things, and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Open Wounds Podcast. I have with me a guest. His name is Ron Lemire. He is a self-described Renaissance man. He has a lot of experience with body work and the merging of Eastern and Western medicine practices. And he also has a ton of knowledge about astrology, which is like a passion he's had since his youth. So welcome to the podcast, Ron.
Well, thanks, Candice.
Yeah, Ron and I have a good connection. Ron used to live where I live in Hawaii, so we were just chatting about that. But I wanted to have Ron on to talk a little bit about astrology because he has such a wealth of knowledge of it. And then we'll also get into he has an invention that helps with bilateral. Would you call it physical therapy? What would you call that?
The liquid trainer is a magical biofeedback machine that's designed to create equal hemisphere balance and stronger alignment with the spine.
Nice. Yeah. So anybody who's had like spinal injuries or back pain or shoulder pain or things like that, I'm assuming would be
Well, that
really
would be for
them.
the rehab part, but more than anything, it's when you work with the system, it basically, as an athlete, for example, if you were an athlete, it would bring you to your personal best real quickly. It teaches you how to hack into the zone. And basically, you can simulate any sports movement with this water system. I did not invent it, but I spent 40 years developing and cultivating the movements through the different modalities that I've worked with, like the Rolfing Institute, the Feldenkrais, the Alexander, and then I worked with the osteopaths, the chiropractors, and all the body workers that I know. So we've kind of really forged an understanding of when you use this tube of water, of how it can create a sense of balance that you normally would not have, or you can't possibly have. This water does not like limitations, so it keeps pushing the edge of it.
Interesting. Yeah, I looked at your website, and I will link your website for the trainer in the show notes. But I thought it was really fascinating because it's like a plastic-ish kind of thing with handles, and you just fill it with water. So I was like, oh, this is really cool, because if you think about weights, they're so heavy. You can't really like take your weights to the park. You can't really take you know what I mean? They're very limited in how you can use them. And so I was like, oh, this is really cool, because you can dump the water out, pack it in your luggage if you want it, or put it in your car and then just fill it up with water. Is it like different amounts of water based on what you want to do with it?
Well, we used to have a little saying, it's instant exercise. Just add water. And we only add about 2.5 pounds of water. It's about a quart.
Okay.
And so the polyurethane tube is 8 inches wide when it's flat. And then you add 2.5 pounds, and you have these handles on each end. So you send the water from one end to the next. And then from that, the receiving side then becomes dominant, and you send it, and then the receiving side to the receiving side on that. So both sides are both dominant, receptive. And what's unique about it is that we are 92% of the world is right-handed. So in being right-handed, that's our dominant side. Now, if you think about the Earth, we're also 65, 70% water, just as the Earth is. And as the Earth turns counterclockwise, where we have this illusion that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. when all the time we're turning around our axis counterclockwise.
Yeah.
Now, because we're 92% dominant right-handed, if you circularize a throwing movement around your axis, you would be turning counterclockwise. So we replicate that. Now, one of the problems that we have of being so dominant right-handed is that we are left brain fixed. And as we are left brain fixed, we tend to want to control, so we can't make enough laws to make our world a little more congested. And so in the bad sense of it, it's a hierarchical model. And we kind of go that way because our Earth turns 23.5 degrees, in precession of equinoxes, the 4 seasons and stuff. And so as long as we are stay within the pattern of that, we get stuck and fixed on that left brain stuff. So in the right brain, meanwhile, is the field, imagination, fantasy, dreams, anything that is not
Creativity.
solid, but yet it's the field that we live in, and it's the field that represents our future. And in saying that, some of the outer planets today, such as Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, are all in harmony, are starting to line up in harmony in air and fire elements. So that represents a field of consciousness that we've not seen in a long, long time. In fact, at 0 degrees Aries, it is so unbelievably incredible that we're entering into a new dimension of time, where quantum understanding will become like a second knowledge, second language. And so one of the things I really like about the liquid trainer, and why I think it's taken so long for it to kind of surface, is that when you work with this system, over the years, I've developed level 1. I've written the movements like 100 times plus, and now I have it's what the first system is. What level 1 is about is how do you manage, ground reaction force. So all movements, whether conscious or unconscious, comes from the ground up. And the more that you understand that, you'll find that it's the principal modality for all disciplines: qigong, karate, dance, sports. And injuries occur when your footing is not perfectly balanced for the movement that you want to execute. So what we've done with the 8 movements is to create an understanding of how the base works with gravity. When gravity comes through the body, your feet, for example, have to be, if I'm doing a lateral movement, my foot has to be pointing in that direction so that my knee can ergonomically bend over it. A lot of times, like tennis players, they have to do this fast stuff, but because they may not have developed this footing thing, where footing could be like turned in while their knee is going that way, and done repetitively, the fibula, the head of the fibula will fall out, you could say, and there's like knee pain, and the first thing you know, there's like all this problem. So what the first lesson does is to create an understanding of ground reaction force, gravity. And as you do that and you move from side to side, the hardest part of learning this is to kind of override your dominant side. When you override your dominant side and your left can execute as well as your right, what happens then is that your spine starts to lengthen. As your spine lengthens, it's what I call your true center. And when you have a true center, you're more connected to the galactic center as opposed to the wobbling center of the Earth. Well, in one sense, the Earth needs all of our help to think more truly so that we can help her right herself as she is wobbling through space.
I think what I found interesting, because it's a bilateral movement, which reminded me of EMDR, tapping, and there's some other bilateral treatments people do to help regulate the nervous system, to help tell the body you're calm, everything is fine. I think they said horseback riding is another one, because you're kind of going like this, you know what I mean? It's putting an interaction on both sides of the body and giving you feedback. So I could understand how, for people who have, like you said, not only physical things but mental things, helping the bilateral stimulation brings like a balance and a sense of calm and a sense of grounding,
Mhm.
using this tool that you've invented.
When you use this movement system, what happens is that the corpus callosum, the bridge between the left and right brain, is stimulated. It's
Nice.
activated. There's a greater communication ability between the right brain and the left brain. So let's take golf, for example. When you're learning golf, it's left brain. Keep
Mm,
your eye on the ball, make the grip a certain way, make sure you don't bend your elbows. All the cues that it takes
yeah.
for you to address that position. But you're not making any money with that because you're a beginner and you're in your left brain mode.
Yeah.
But when you get to be a pro, what happens is that they've done it so many times and they're working always to get that ball in a hole. So what happens when they address the ball is that they contain the field. They know where the
Mm,
pin is, they know how their body's supposed to be, and they execute it that way. That's getting into the zone. When you
yeah.
get into the zone and you actually are entering the field, it's an effortless situation. So you see
Yeah.
these guys do a swing. I think one of the prettiest swings I've ever seen is Michelle Lee out of Hawaii, right? That
Yeah.
you watch her swing, you go, my God, this is poetry in motion.
Yeah.
Any athlete where you will assign that phrase, poetry in motion, didn't just do it. They have repeated it and repeated and repeated it until all of a sudden it's just flow.
It clicks. Yeah.
They know how to get in. They get into the zone so fast.
Yeah. That
So I,
reminds me of the Olympic athletes we just seen coming through the Olympics, because it's not only a skill set you have to have in order to compete at a peak performance level, but it's also like you said, that creative flow state mind, almost like a manifestation of your reality. You have to have that self-belief. You have to have both of those working together, because what was one of the athletes was saying, this isn't just about running the course and making the turns. He's like, you have to be right up here. Your brain has to be calm, grounded, centered, and in that flow state in order to win gold, so to speak, because it can't just be a mechanical movement that you've memorized. You have to embody the gold winning, mentality, so to speak, and create that reality.
there is that, and there's a certain point where you could take that reality and put it to your personal best, but you can falter when you're in a competitive edge,
Mm,
when you're about competition, me
yeah.
or they, whatever.
Hmm.
But the flow does not go into that polarity. The
Right.
flow just wants you, only you, to excel.
Yeah.
So when you get into that zone, you enter a different time. You're in
Hmm.
a quantum. And
Yeah.
so, for example, what appears to us that this person is doing a movement like in a millisecond, you're like, wow, he just did this. In the person's mind, all of these endorphins are being pumped. And what's happening is they have all these choices
Because
we
time has
can't
slowed
we can't
down.
possibly see. So
Yeah.
in their minds, they're probably have about 5 minutes of options, where in our mind it's like less than a second.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the zone. And
Yeah.
so there's a great book called The Rise of Superman by Stephen Kotler that really explains the brain a great deal. I admire the work that he's done. Uh, but what I feel about this particular product, the liquid trainer, is that when you work with it, or I should say when you play with it, because as you start using the movements and you start relating, oh, this is like this. So this is just like a backhand, or this is like a golf swing, or this is like this. Every plane of motion that you execute this bag with has an equal and opposite reaction, both with the ground and with the feedback of the water with your
Mm,
core center. It takes a while to get there. Like I said earlier, when you first learn this, you may have trouble learning some of the movements because you're fixated on your
yeah.
dominant side. Once you break through that fixation, a couple things happen. You are more fluid in your movements. Your
Mm,
sense of alignment is straighter, and your brain is now communicating with both hemispheres.
nice.
Now, go back to the early 60s, and I'm a 60s guy, so you could say that I'm part of that boomer generation, you know, and what we've been labeled as is sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? The
Mhm.
60s.
Yeah.
And yes, that's us. There's no question about that. And we had a lot of fun doing it. But at the same time, on the serious side, the part that when I noticed is that we were also the receptors of the East and the West.
Mhm.
We're the ones that took in martial arts. We're the ones that took in the yoga meditations, the yoga postures. And in that time of the 60s, which is really interesting, what I've noticed is that a lot of modalities that came through were no longer one sided. So, for
Mm,
example, I'm a pugilist from the old days, I'm a Golden Glove boxer.
mhm,
And so my left hand was just a jab, but my power was my right hand. Well, then I had injuries that had none related to boxing, but it made me quit. And I went into martial arts. And then I realized that in martial arts, you have to use both sides equally. You
mhm.
can't just use one side. You can't be a southpaw or a,
Right.
left-handed fighter. You have to fight on both sides. And then another modality that came through is yoga. You can't do yoga on one side. You can't just use your dominant side. You have to use both sides.
Yeah.
And then dance from that point on started really going through amazing things because their training started using both sides.
Mhm.
Like, God, my daughter was showing me the other day, well, a couple years ago. She says, here's an Olympic floor mat winner, right? The one who won the gold medal. So this gal is doing all her, she goes down the court and she does a full flip and lands on her feet. And then she does a couple twists, floor things, gets up, does another one of running. She does a twist. She does a full twist with a flip. And then she keeps it. And then that's like her routine. And she won the gold medal, you know, it was like
Yeah.
simple. And then she says, now check this out, Mary Lou Retner, what she just did recently. And that was like, like I said, this was years ago. This young gal went in there and kind of ran, did a hop and did a double flip with a half twist. That was opening, right? And then she did more. She did like a triple flip and then with
Mm,
two half twists. And you go like, oh my God. I mean, the differences of how the human body adapted to impossible schemes that were impossible at that
yeah.
time are now so probable. So
Yeah.
both mechanically and metaphysically, we are entering a time where the bar is pretty open for new possibilities. And I'm
Yeah.
excited about tomorrow. I know that we're going through a lot of crises right now, and in our country. I mean, it's you asked me to look at the United States chart, and right now we're going through where the planet Uranus is a revolutionary planet. When it was
Mm,
discovered sometime back in 1789, it was during a time of the French Revolution. It was during a time of the American Revolution. So it has the
mhm.
revolution virtue to it.
Yeah.
And it was also a time when there was an industrial revolution going on.
Yeah.
The typewriter, printing press, all of that stuff happened around that time. And then the looms were weaving, blankets, in mass as opposed to just single. So
Yeah.
during that time when Uranus was discovered, science took a step forward, as well as the idea of freedom. These revolutions were based on freedom. So anything to do with Uranus has to do with freedom. Now,
Mhm.
Uranus has been going through Taurus for the last 7 years. And as soon as it went into Taurus, a lot of of course, the Taurus represents like the second house or, the soil, farming,
It's
etc.
like
But during the time,
stability and
yeah, the time of Taurus is
groundedness.
the most beautiful time. In May, you walk around and the flowers smell,
Mhm.
the just like this nature is just so abundant at this time. It's ruled by Venus, and at the time, Venus is not wearing any clothes. So if you look at Botticelli's painting of Venus, she's nude, and there's a lot of other nudity going on, and there's sort of an orgy, and that represents nature. That's what's happening
Yeah.
in nature at the time. The animals are procreating, and it's a procreative sign.
Mhm.
So, um, anyhow, that when Uranus went through there, uh, art went up big time. as far as sales of art. And also
Yeah.
cryptocurrency came in, and that was seen from the beginning. Now we're at
Mm.
the last stages. We're at 27 degrees of Uranus in Taurus. It had gone all the way to 1 degree in Gemini, and then it retrograded back in. As it was doing that, so did Pluto was going back and forth in Capricorn at least 3 times. Now it's permanently in Aquarius for the next 15 years.
Which
And
Aquarius is
Neptune
all about the collective, right?
is about the collective. Like, for example, as soon as it went into Aquarius, there was a big power move by Elon Musk, and Doge came in and started slashing everything, right?
Yeah, that's
And
like the
so,
not fun side of Aquarius.
yeah, well, no, it isn't. It isn't. What happened? The reaction to that was instead of the corporation being in power, people started like burning their Tesla. Not they wouldn't burn their Teslas, but
Oh, that's right. They quit driving their
they
Teslas
he
and they
lost
were like,
billions of dollars on this. It brought him, and on
yeah.
one sense, it got his attention. And so, what I noticed about that that particular signature is people will have their last word. It's not going to be
Mm,
governments or companies. So now that Pluto is firmly in Aquarius, what we're going to see is the individual power coming forward, the
yeah.
communal power. And
Yeah.
that's starting, right? So that's
Yes.
now in Aquarius for another 14, 15 years. Neptune went and Saturn went back and forth in Pisces and Aries. And now, just like February 20th, um, Neptune and Saturn are now at 0 degrees Aries. This is
Hmm.
pretty amazing. This particular aspect of this happening again probably won't occur for another 8, 9,000 years.
Yeah.
So we
It's
should
a
pay
rare time
attention.
that we're in. Yeah.
So if you think about Aries, Aries is a seal of newness. It's
Hmm.
spring. It's
Yeah.
March 21st, and everything's starting to just impulsively grow and break through the ground. So
Yeah.
you could
Aries
say,
is like
well,
a very forceful energy. It's kind of like fire, right? And it's powerful.
it is, and basically it's about exploring and discovering, exploring and adventure. That's it. That's what we are in right now. We're on the threshold of a new era.
Yeah.
And so, last but not least, Uranus, which is very effective. When I mention these 3 planets, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, they affect the collective emotionally and thought wise because
Hmm.
they take a long time to go through a sign. So it's like having
Yeah.
a magnifying glass. And this is kind of the energy that's coming through right now from the cosmos.
Yeah.
And so Uranus right now is at 27 degrees Taurus. When you look at a chart that's the United States chart, for example, or a country's chart, the moon is the population.
Mm,
So we
okay.
have a 27-degree Aquarius moon that represents the United States. So Aquarius is the only sign that represents the future because it's ruled by both Saturn and Uranus. So
Hmm.
Uranus is the revolutionary, but Uranus comes from the future. Let's
Mm,
look at the possibilities.
yeah.
United States Uranus is in Gemini, natally. So we're having also a Uranus return. Uranus in the 6th house of the United States represents health and well being. So once in Gemini, so once Uranus enters Gemini for the next 7 years, we're going to see medical discoveries like
Mm,
we've never seen before. You can't even imagine it at this point. You
yeah.
cannot even imagine it. In about a year from now, we're all going to be rather stunned and amazed by what possibilities are just with discoveries about how, cancer, we'll get rid of that. Yeah, we'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of it because
Yeah.
of new discoveries in the health sector of the United States.
Nice.
But right now at 27 degrees Taurus, Uranus is squaring the United States moon. Exactly.
Hmm.
Now, this is a really incredible time because the whole population is actually in a shock.
Yes, it's what
And
it's felt like since February 13th, it's felt like bam,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because right around that time or a little more, Uranus went direct. So as
Yeah.
it's been retrograde for a long time. I'll say like over a month. That's a long time, really, for just a stationary retrograde. And then it's
Yeah.
direct now, but it's still at the same degrees, and it's not going to go. And it's not going to go to 28 degrees until like March 15th, 14th, something like that.
Hmm.
You know. So now that it's direct, though, it's really shaking up the population. The
Yeah.
population has to decide if it wants to be in prison with this fascist administration, or
Right.
does it want to have a certain liberating quality? And the thing is, when this administration started doing all its kind of dirty work, you could say, that was when Pluto was the last, literally 2 weeks of Capricorn.
Mm.
And Capricorn is, it's an earth sign, but it also represents the patriarch.
Mm.
So Pluto and the patriarch was what came forward, and all of that stuff they threw in at us, and
Yeah.
here we are, kind of like dazed and confused. But Pluto now being in Aquarius is the people are the ones that are going to kind of are going to want to see what's the underbelly of this, and let's deal with it.
Yes. We're
So
exposing it. Yeah.
another thing about uh, the United States chart is that the north and south node. The north node is kind of the future, but the south node represents the past, and anything that's been hidden.
Yeah.
When a planet comes along, it usually brings it up for air
Brings it to
for us
light.
to
Yeah.
see. And right now, Pluto, we have a north node of 6 degrees Aquarius. So Pluto right now is at 4 degrees, and it's now, you can see that the underbelly of the Epstein files wants to surface.
Hmm.
This is Pluto bringing what wants to be kept secret
To
available to
light.
see.
Yeah.
And we're seeing all of that. It's a healing for our country.
It's
When we see
necessary.
this,
Yeah. It's
we will be
uncomfortable,
a
but
much
necessary.
stronger. Exactly. And so that is happening right now as we speak. And there's a square. So when Uranus finally makes it into Gemini, which will be at the end of April, the last week of April, it will be there for 7 years. And when it gets there, it will trine, which means there'll be a harmonious aspect of Uranus to Pluto.
Mm.
Now, when I say trine, think about the Star of David, how
Okay.
wonderful that geometry looks. So that's two trines right there. Those are two equilateral triangles. So whenever you see a trine in a chart, it's all the same element. Okay, so
Okay.
we have four elements, and there's three different signs that have that same element. So you have Aries is fire, and the fire is the mind. The fire is pituitary pineal gland. The fire is just visionary outpouring. The next fire is Leo. Now,
Hmm.
in Aries, it was one seed. The seed was planted. It broke through, and then two leaves formed, and that's the same. That's the same sign as the Aries glyph. You see that
Oh,
sun
yes.
going up and
Hmm.
around. That's like two leaves coming out. And we're in medical astrology, where it represents the human, is from the nose up to the eyebrows. So if you look right in there, that's the pituitary pineal setting, and that fire, the fire of consciousness, it awakens. And
Mm.
then when you get to Leo, you have the the complete cornucopia of nature, and all of the fruit are ripened. Vegetables in the gardens, everything. People playing music in the street at the time of Leo. For God's sakes, um, Mick Jagger has 5 planets in Leo. Do you
No
think he's a
wonder.
stranger? Is he a stranger to the stage?
No.
Anyone born in Leo at one moment or another likes to be on the stage.
Yeah.
Even if they're shy and introverted, once they get on the stage, you go, wow, who's that? you know,
Yeah.
well, if you look at the fruit, it's multiplied. There are
Hmm.
like now inside an apple, there might be like, 15, 20 seeds, not just one.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
multiple. So anyhow, that's the second fire. The third fire is Sagittarius. And that's right after Scorpio breaks away from matter and it becomes spirit. So that's the
Mm,
fire of spirit. And that's why the Sagittarians are like the comics of the zodiac, as well as they have good luck. They're well wishers, they're optimistic. And so that's the ninth house. When we look at the ninth house, we look at higher learning. Let's
mm,
just give you an example of how astrology works.
yeah.
That is what you call a trine. Those are
Okay.
three different fire signs. You have the same thing, three different water signs, three different earth signs.
Yes.
They all have different qualities of the elements that they're in.
Okay.
So now that Uranus is about to enter Gemini, an air sign, it will trine Pluto, Aquarius, another air sign, and they will sextile. When I say sextile, that means they're 60 degrees. If you take a 60-degree around your whole zodiac, around 360 degrees, you will see a hexagram, which is
Mm,
another harmonious geometry.
yeah.
So you could look at a chart, for example, and whatever geometry that you see there that is harmonious, you will see that there's harmony also in the interpretation.
Mm,
So sacred geometry, astrology, we have to understand this as we move forward. But
yeah.
what I want to say is that when Gemini is activated with Uranus entering it, there will be a trine aspect between Uranus and Pluto, and there will be a sextile aspect with both Uranus and Pluto with Neptune and Saturn.
Mm,
Now, this is pretty amazing stuff. As far as I'm concerned, that's like a celestial canopy that will be over the collective.
mm,
So I don't see great negativity coming up. I
good.
see that we're going to clean our act and we're going to become much better and we're going to have possibilities and we're going to just go forward.
Yeah.
I'm really optimistic about tomorrow.
I am too. I think, and I want to kind of take it backwards a little bit for people who don't understand astrology very well, because I think you just kind of took us like right to the heart of the matter. So, for somebody who's new to astrology, the sun, the moon, the rising sign, right? So, for example, my sun is in Taurus, my moon is in Pisces, and my rising is in Libra. The sun represents what exactly if they're looking at their chart and they don't know anything?
The sun represents your individual self, your authentic self, not the self that is formed by how others think of you, but how
Mm,
you cultivate yourself and know yourself to be. That's
okay.
the quality of the sun. It's usually the first house that your rising. So the sun is your. Now let me get back here. Uh, the sun represents your individual being.
Your
The
individual being.
ascendant. Let's say you will. Well, so you say you have
So
you're a Taurus, but you
my
have a Libra ascendant.
Libra rising slash, yeah,
Right.
people call it rising, people call it ascendant, but rising or ascendant is in
Yeah.
Libra, which is what people see me as. Is that correct? That's how people perceive me.
Yes. Yeah, well, basically, it's like on the day of your birthday. Um. Um. Where the sun was at dawn is your rising sun.
Okay. So that's a
So,
Libra's. So that's
yeah,
like your externalized persona, so to speak.
yeah. There's a Rumi had a nice saying. Uh, some trees are moved by the blows of an axe, and some by the breeze of a morning dawn.
Mm,
And if you think about that, how serene it is. If you ever, get up for sunrise, that's where their birds really, put it
yeah.
out there. And it's so quiet and it's so peaceful and it's so powerful. And that's who you are. That's who
Mm,
you are. And that sense of self that's the first house. That's what delineates the chart to become the first house. So your first house, the name of the house literally is the Aries house, but you're
in
in,
Libra.
but it's you're a Libra.
Right.
But it's the house of Aries, the first house, which just represents your sense of self, your authentic self.
Hmm. And then the moon represents our inner world and our emotions, right?
It does. And it tends to be very habitual too. So if you want to know where your habits are, just look at your moon.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. I hadn't heard that before. So I know a lot of when I first started looking into astrology, most people focus on their sun sign. And I was like, I kind of can see this. But like you said, my internal world as a Taurus when I was growing up was very shamed. Being the Tauran aspects that I felt the most strongly were kind of like beat out of me. Like materialism is bad, and wanting comfortable things is bad, and wanting to have nice stuff is vanity. And so I had kind of like suppressed my Tauran aspects. So when I would read the books and the things, I was like, I don't get this. But once I realized my sun, moon, and rising, I was like, okay, I do identify a lot with Pisces. I do understand like that my inside world is like very in alignment with Pisces. And
Mhm.
then the South Node and the North Node, when I had a reading and learned about those, my whole brain just kind of like exploded. So, can you explain to people when they're looking at their chart what is the importance of knowing their South and North Node?
Yeah, sometimes I find that probably the most important thing to look at a chart are those two nodal
I agree.
axes, and
I don't
they're
know. I
basically
don't know why
they're not
when we
even
say,
real, right?
"Hey, what's your sign?" Why people say, "Oh, I'm a Taurus." We should really ask, "What's your South Node and your North Node?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, I haven't even looked at your chart, but just knowing you're a Taurus, so you have the Venus aspect, right? And the Venus aspect also, the metal that rules Taurus is copper,
Mm,
right? So Aries is iron, Taurus is copper, Gemini is mercury, Cancer is silver, Leo
mhm.
is gold. You can see how the metals work with this. And so, but copper is the one element that, forms all of the musical instruments. You wouldn't be able to have a trombone, a sax, or any of those without
Oh, that's
copper with
interesting.
that
I didn't
brass.
know that.
Brass can't happen without copper. So Venus rules music, it rules art, and it rules harmony, basically.
Mm.
And so you have Venus there, and then you also have a Venus that wears all her clothes in Libra. So
Yes. Yeah.
Libra is a cardinal point, and it's the first day of fall, right? Autumn.
Mhm.
And what happens? So around that time, the trees are all turning colors. I mean, if you
Yes.
go in the
It's a very
Northeast, for
beautiful
example,
time.
every color in the rainbow is from the maples to the oak. It's there. It's beautiful. So
Hmm.
Venus is like portraying her beauty. She's
Hmm.
nature. The tarot card would be the Empress, nature, Venus.
Yes.
And so in Colorado, we only had two colors. We had
The
the
aspens are
green.
yellow.
You had the green and a quaking aspen,
Yeah.
and only with two colors. It was so dramatic.
Yeah.
So there's this beauty about Venus in Libra,
Yeah.
and Venus is like so. It's the only time that you have a fall fashion catalog, right? You don't have a
Oh, okay.
spring fashion catalog. You have a fall fashion catalog. So fashion. So
Yeah.
interesting that you said earlier you were into like interior decorating. That's
Yes.
total
Yes.
Libra. I mean,
Yeah.
I would
It's funny
trust
because
you in a
my
minute.
my son
So
is a
there's that.
Libra and he loves to put outfits together. My son is like a Libra, and then he's got his south node is in Aries, but his north node is in Libra. So he loves to like put outfits together and get accessories and gets hats, and he
Mhm.
has like he's very into it. But when I realized once I learned my south node is in Aquarius and my north node is in Leo, I was like, oh, okay, now everything makes sense because I definitely, when I would read like about all the different signs, I strongly identified with Aquarius and I couldn't figure it out because I was like, well, my sun, moon, and rising, none of them are in Aquarius. Why do I feel so strongly tied to this Aquarius? And then it was my south node. The north node in Leo is where I struggle against, like doing
Well, you're
this
breaking
podcast.
through.
Yes, I'm
You're
trying.
you're
This
breaking through
podcast
because
was like
right. When
it
you
took
look at the
me
node,
2 years.
for example, you look at the south node as a past life or the past. That's when I said right now we're having a reckoning in the United States where Pluto is in conjunction now, but not quite exact with our nation's south node. And so
Mm-hmm.
what that represents our past lives as well.
Yeah.
And so in the past life, your past life of being an Aquarian, well, you might have been like really out to like serve the public, feed people, do this, do that, and just like if it's good for you, you would only do it if it was good for everyone else.
Yes.
In
Yes.
Leo, there's a different sense there. Leo is more outgoing. Look at the
Yeah.
cornucopia of nature at its time. So if
Mm-hmm.
you want to know astrology really well, watch nature. What goes on in each
Mm-hmm.
sign? What's
That's
happening in
cool.
nature at that time? People born at that time are just literally reflecting. So, for example, people
Mm-hmm.
who are born in the time of Virgo, a lot of times they could get really caught up in not seeing the forest for the trees because they have what you call analysis paralysis. If you have more
Yeah.
than one planet in Virgo, you spend more time with details than you see the whole picture.
Yeah. I
And
have a
why?
lot of Virgo in my chart.
And the que- and the question of that is, in the time of Virgo is the time of harvest. It's the harvest moon.
Mm.
It's the time when we have to take the fruit off the trees, put it in the box. This goes to the farmer's market. This goes to seeding for next year. This goes for
Mhm.
winter storage. And the Virgos think like that. Virgos think
Yeah.
what needs, how they harvest, where it goes, and how to survive through the winter for the
Yeah.
next season, right? So that's a Virgo. And so if you have taxes that you got to get done and you're not quite sure who to see, make sure if you find out that it's a Virgo accountant, you got to make sure that they're gonna dot the I's and cross the
Cross the
T's.
T's. Yeah, I
And
get
that's
along very
huge.
well with Virgos. They're one of my favorite people. When I meet someone,
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, you're a Virgo. I love you. We'll get along great." Versus like when I had my reading and she said, "Oh, your North Node is in Leo. That means that's what you were put here on this earth in this iteration to learn and incorporate the aspects of Leo." And I was like, "Buh, no, I hate it." Like I
Yeah,
I have a lot of Leos around me, but they make me very agitated usually. And so when she told me I was supposed to like embody Leo, I was just like, oh God, anything but that. So I think, for anybody watching this, when you can pull your chart up, you will see your South Node and your North Node, and they're very, very
yeah.
important.
Let me just say things, Leo. It's even though the zenith of the sun is highest in Cancer, that's what determines the summer, right? In the cardinal sign
Mm,
of Cancer, Cancer begins the season. Not all the fruit are ripened by that height, but
yeah.
because of the radiation in Leo, it ripens the fruit.
Mm,
So Leo is ruled by the sun. The metal for it is gold. The gold of the animal world is the lion. The gold of the vegetable world are grapes.
mm,
And so there's this sense of cornucopia. A Leo well aspected makes an incredible leader. And that's because they share the bounties.
mm.
And so your voice is sharing, you have different people on and you're sharing knowledge, to a much greater audience, you could say, than yourself. So your
Yeah.
sense of Leo now is broadcasting and creating a cornucopia within the minds of your listeners.
That's true. Yeah. I didn't think about it that way because, I think too, the other thing is all the signs have like their positive attributes, but they also have kind of like their shadow aspects, right? Like,
Hmm.
so for example, Libras, you know, can be seen as vain, people might say, or Leos can be seen as narcissistic, right? There's each sign has kind of like you said, like Virgos can sometimes be nitpicky or too controlling, right? So I think that's the other part of it is when we start learning about our charts and learning about how this impacts us is to make sure that the shadow aspects of these signs aren't running the show, so to speak.
Exactly. Well, the chart is always moving, right? So you have the
Mhm.
faster moving planets like the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter to some degree, but Jupiter's a little slower. Um, when they come in aspect, for example, let's say with your ascendant or with your sun or whatever, and it's a square, and a square here is not to be afraid of. A square basically means this person represents a view of one season. Okay, this person knows
Mm,
all about spring because he's born in the early spring, and this person knows a lot about summer because he was born in the first days of summer. So those are
yeah.
squares. They have different views, but yet when you start talking together, it's all the same garden. And
Mm,
what happens when you have a square, it kind of nudges your sense of habits that you repeat over and over again. So squares are useful. You can't be a
yes.
really good artist without them. If all
Right.
you have are trines and you have the easy life, well, it's kind of a wasted life as well. But
Mm,
if you have squares, and you will eventually, because the planets are moving, they're always creating, squares, and
yeah.
these squares are reminders for us to step forward, for right, or to step back and take a look at it. I want to mention also that you have a um, Pisces midheaven,
Hmm.
and I used to work with John Denver. I was his cook, his therapist, and his bodyguard. And John was a Capricorn guy, but he had Pisces midheaven.
Mm. Yeah, which I can see it would be very good for writing music because it's a very emotional, like your moon is already very emotional and
Mhm.
Pisces is already very like it goes to the depths and it kind of is very spiritual and esoteric, right? And so it being tied to your emotions, I could see that making for really good music writing. Like
It
it gives you
would
a lot to
because
work with.
it's ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. So Neptune is a high level, you know, uh, planet in the sense of spirituality. When it traveled, it when all the time that it was in Pisces, the the job it had there was to spiritualize humanity.
Mm.
And you would think, well, hey, you know, are we all spiritual now?
No, not yet.
No, but what it does, it also breaks down boundaries. It also
Mm.
breaks down structures. So that Pisces sign rules all major religions. It
Mm.
rules also prisons, asylum,
Wow.
because if you're looking at the chart as soul growth from Aries to Pisces, Pisces is the last sign. If you didn't get it by then, it's going to be really hellish for
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
in a sense. So when Neptune goes in there, it starts to break down the barriers or the structures of major religions. So the
Mm.
Catholic Church took a big hit while it was going through there. The Muslims took a big hit. The Jewish people took a big hit. Not not the people who are in essence practicing the teachings, but people who are looking at the teachings as outside of themselves as most important,
Mm.
not inside themselves. So what's happening now with Saturn and Neptune meeting at the threshold of Aries is that the learnings of all of this that happened in Pisces is contained in that one moment. And wants to structure. Saturn wants to structure it. So Neptune wants to see vision unfold
Mm.
from all of the incredible knowledge that it just reaps from going through Pisces and the whole zodiac. Now it
Mm.
wants to take all of that and it wants to unfold it forward. It wants us
Yeah.
to pioneer quantum understanding. It wants us
Mm.
to become personally spiritual, not
Yeah.
collectively spiritual, but personally spiritual.
Yes.
And Saturn wants to try to create a structure to represent that. So its structure
Mm.
is not going to be like an organization, I don't believe. I think its structure is going to be more like ephemeral. It's going to be the individual. You're going to start
Mm.
feeling, we're all going to start feeling that we need to step up. We need to show our best card and step forward with it. When we start doing that, it doesn't matter what domination you are. Basically, you want to reduce yourself or exalt yourself to becoming a true human being.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't involve all of the little, accoutrements or labels we put on ourselves. We're not,
Yeah.
I'm, or is it Catholic, Muslim, or is it like, am I a Republican, a Democrat, or am
Right.
I, you know what I mean? All of those things really don't mean anything. They
Yeah.
don't, because when you die, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, you expand much greater. But while you're
Yeah.
here, your best step forward in helping others is really how you should be remembered.
Hmm. Yeah,
Should
I
be
think you
remembered and how you
you
help
made a
others.
good point of like with the planets shifting and the United States coming to kind of a turning point, so to speak. Like we haven't, you said it's an opportunity for us as the United States, and it could go both ways. So could you talk a little bit about that? Like these, we're kind of coming to like a revelation. Things are being shown that have been hidden for a very long time. We're seeing kind of like the stuff we didn't want to see and having realizations about it. Um, and it's given us this opportunity to create a new way, or we could choose not to. We could choose to numb out and turn a blind eye to it. So, could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, things are, there's a thing, saying in the arcane knowledge is as above, so below. What occurs above also is happening within us and without us in our environment. So, as you know, the genie's been let out of the bottle. We have AI,
Yeah.
and so everybody, there's a certain sector of people that will go, oh my God, oh, we're going to be controlled, or this is going to happen. And there's like a lot of negativity around it. And likely so. I mean, it does, if it's harnessed by the wrong energy, it can
Yes.
go south on us real fast. So it's important not to be afraid of it. It's
Hmm.
important to harness it. It's important to put your tab of goodness into it. And it's
Hmm.
important to direct it as opposed to being directed by it. And
Yeah.
that's going to be our choice. And my daughter, who's a singer songwriter, she has, I'll plug her, go to I Am Sophia Music, and she does all of her stuff. She does the mixing, the writing, the singing, everything. And I talk with her a lot because she's in touch with people who are really doing amazing things with AI, around the
Hmm.
arts.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of artists don't like that. And I
Yeah.
definitely get it. Um, and at the same time, those same artists that have great vision and lyrics, AI can't can't really compete with them because AI can only regurgitate what's been done.
Right.
But what hasn't been done is still in our hands. It's still in our hearts. And so if we take AI and we direct it in positive ways that help our humanities, that help us even help our environment,
Hmm.
um, then that's our job right now. We have to take that bull by the horns. Because if we just complain about it and sit idly by, uh, sure enough, probably the worst will come because hocus pocus, it's all where you focus.
Hmm.
Where you put your thoughts is really where is the path you're going to be following.
Right.
So you want to complain a lot, you'll continue complaining.
Yeah.
If you ask the real questions about yourself and about really what part do you play, where do you want to go, and how do you want to meet, and how do you want to do this, those are the right questions. That's going forward, you
Hmm.
know. But by complaining about what doesn't work, man, we've been doing that for centuries.
Yeah.
Now we have an opportunity to explore realms that we've never seen before. And
Hmm.
that's scary to a lot of people because, Uranus, it represents freedom. But you know what the real another word for freedom is? Uncertainty.
Yes. It's a very
If you,
scary feeling right now because you can feel what we're used to, which was not
Mhm,
great, kind of falling in on itself. And so it's like, okay, well, now we get this opportunity to start over, to rebuild, to create something new. And so that's what I've kind of been bringing out like as a theme since the beginning of the year. It's like instead of sitting here and be like, oh my God, our politicians are so corrupt and oh my God, everything is terrible, we need to say, well, what do we want to create instead? Where do we want to
mhm,
go instead? If we don't like what's
mhm.
happening, let's take that energy and move it towards what do we want to see? What do we want to create? And what new experiences do we want to have as the United States of America?
Hey, I have a suggestion for leadership. You're a millennial, I take it.
I'm on 1980, so sometimes they say I'm Gen X, and sometimes they say I'm a
Yeah,
millennial.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The millennials, the time when Uranus and Neptune were conjunct, all throughout history, whenever you look at those two aspects when they conjunct, and they really last like their conjunction of going direct and retrograde can last as long as 10 years.
Wow.
And so that generation right now are the ones that I think should take the baton and go forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have way too many old people. Excuse me, I'm 76, so I'm speaking against my own crowd here. But I got to tell you, where my mindset is, I would not want to be a senator. I would not
Yeah,
want to
I'm
have
always
that kind of
saying that
responsibility.
to my husband. I'm like, don't they want to retire and go play golf? I don't
Yeah,
know. Like, get out of the Senate, get out of the Congress, and go spend some time lounging by the
yeah.
pool. Yeah, why do you want to be there having to put your suit and tie on and get out of bed? Like that one guy, they always make fun of him. He's like super, super old.
Mr. McConnell?
Yes. I'm just like, dude, you can stay home and read the paper, please. Like, just give it a rest. But yeah, I do think this is an opportunity for us as the United States and as a collective. We also see a lot of the globe look to the United States to try to see, well, what's going to happen with their president? What's going to happen with their leadership? And so I
Yeah.
feel like if we can kind of take the reins and, steer a new course, so to speak.
hmm Well, if you look at the United States chart, one of the things when you look at a chart, for example, if a lot of planets are to the left of the vertical axis, the nadir and the midheaven, that pretty much would give you an interpretation that you're a self-made person, you're independent, you
Mm.
rely on yourself. And if you look at the planets in the United States chart, 7 of them, all major ones, are like on the right side,
Oh.
and which means that we need others
Hmm.
to help us.
Yeah.
So our allies are important to us. They're what make us who we are, and we could be the captain of the ship that we all move forward in. But if we're now kneeing everyone that's like in NATO or this or that, it's like we're not doing ourselves a good favor because we don't do well alone.
Yeah.
We can't do well alone. Our chart
Yeah.
needs to have a communal connection to all nations. That is our strength. And right now we're seeing that being just torn apart. And all of us are feeling that, but at the same time, I'm saying
Yeah.
I suspect that that's going to end soon, and that our new leadership will show up. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the younger voices that
Yeah.
are coming
I
forward.
agree.
And I think women
Yeah.
are going to be the key. Where before I look at Aries as being Mars and male oriented, and it is a male sign in that sense. I think Athena now, the goddess, is like Mars. It's like a female Mars, and I think she's now
Mhm.
coming forward, and
I
we're going to see
definitely
women.
I
So
definitely feel that because I just intuitively I have been talking, like watching and talking and speaking to people, and there's suddenly this huge shift of women, number one, being really, really, really mad and really, really angry. So that's that Aries, like kind of fiery energy. And number two, I've also heard this reoccurring theme for like a couple, like 6 months or more now, where women, especially women who are very in tune with their spiritual, and they do a lot of inner work and a lot of this, you know bringing new realities into being, are getting the message of the mother, like the matriarchy, right? And
Mhm.
so we've had men running things for so long, and we've seen where that's brought us to. And I do think you're right, it's going to be the new leadership that's going to come in needs to be spearheaded by women. Not that men
Yeah,
won't exist and won't have a say, but the women will be the ones primarily guiding us, and it would be
I
a
believe
very
so.
different shift. Yeah,
And
I
that was
agree.
part of the the 60s revolution occurred on many different levels. And so as we were midwifing the East coming here, that meant that in our hemispheres of our earthly brain, you know, we were the corpus callosians of that. And
Mm.
so what I'm saying is when we started doing bilateral movements such as yoga, martial arts, dance, and we started now incorporating both sides equally,
Yeah.
women were becoming stronger.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. Women were becoming stronger. Now they have much more political clout, and it's quite amazing. But that's been a real. It's just something that I've noticed in our our what do you call it? Uh, our movement modalities, but our ah, it evades me right now.
That's
But
okay. Yeah, I
um,
do think
as
that the
we
term you used, midwife, is what I'm feeling, this energy of like it's something is being birthed right now. A new reality is being
Mhm.
birthed. And it's like, what do we want that to be? How do we want to raise and rear this new reality? And we want to create a monster again, or do we want to
Yeah,
create something that's more peaceful or, that's joyful and it cares for everyone and it's thinking of everyone's well-being and not just one.
yeah, and as you know, birth is a very messy thing, and we are
Yes,
involved in that messy thing now.
it's scary. There's a lot of screaming, there's blood, there's
Yeah,
like people running around. So yes, it right now can feel very terrifying, it can feel very uncomfortable, but it is bringing something in that's necessary and that will be better for us all on the other side.
I believe that.
Yeah. Well, I know we're right at an hour, so I just want to say thank you, Ron, for coming on. I will link your trainer, the liquid trainer. I really liked watching the videos of you guys using it on the website because I was like, oh, this looks actually fun. This looks like a fun thing to do, not just like
It is.
a tedious, oh, I got to go do my exercises. So I will link that. I will link the books that you mentioned as well. Is there anything you want to promote before we go, like your website or your social media or anything?
Yeah, my social media, and so being an old guy that I am, it's like not my realm. But my daughters are like cyborgs, and they said, "Dad, you can't. This is not going to go out there unless you go on TikTok or unless you go on
Yeah.
Instagram." So I'm now on TikTok and I'm
Nice.
now on Instagram, and my TikTok address is at Liquid Trainer,
Okay,
and
cool.
my Instagram is at the Liquid Trainer.
Okay, good. So people can find you, and I'll link those in the show notes as well. And yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge. I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours about all the things that are happening with the collective, but I think you really summarized it very well and helped us kind of get an insight on what we're experiencing right now.
We'll hope for the best, and we'll put our best foot forward. That's the best we can
Yes.
ask of each other.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Ron, and thank everybody for watching and listening this week's episode. And we'll see you again next week. Okay.